Greetings, survivors. Now, this is actually going to be an interesting video because it's actually meant to be a live stream. Now, you see, in this video, it's going to be a Q&A about survival, meaning anyone who's watching it can ask whatever questions they want, that's survival related, and I will answer it. But in between questions, I'm going to be giving a lecture on how to choose your weapon for the zombie apocalypse, or against zombie apocalypse. Now, so let's start off this lecture with okay. So I'm going to give an example of a quite popular idea of a weapon for zombies. And sledgehammer. Now, it's very popular because it's a common tool. It's very heavy, can do a lot of damage with a good swing, and it's appeared in pop culture as a weapon many times. Ultimately, it's easy to say that this could be great because of its amazing killing potential, but let's look at its pros and cons. Now, first off, sledgehammer. What are its pros? Well, has a lot of power with a good swing. And it doesn't require much maintenance. Of course, this one is getting pretty rusty and I'm probably going to need to get a new handle for it. Or just get a new one altogether, but either way, this one will need some maintenance, but it's minimal maintenance. And has a decent reach. Now, other than that, what are some cons? Well, you actually need a lot of physical strength to use it. It also takes a lot of energy to use it. It's not a guaranteed kill. And ultimately, while the maintenance it does take is minimal, the maintenance that is actually extensive when it has to be done. For instance, once I'm getting do maintenance on this, I'm getting a new handle for it, and I'm going to get rid of the rust on this. Now, other than that, it also is incredibly hard to keep with you at all times, and ultimately is pretty active. When fighting multiple things. Of course, if you're a really big person, then you could use it effectively. But ultimately, sledgehammer, it's not terrible. I mean, it will work, but not going to recommend it. Okay. Now, just as a reminder, feel free to ask any survival questions you want in the chat. Now, that was actually our example. Now, with that in mind, how do you choose your weapon? Well, there are a lot of things to consider, such as skill level, ability, physical, strength and endurance, amount of effort it takes to use the weapon, and of course, concealability is useful when fighting people. Now, let's look at something that's else to see how well it fits into that. Now, this one. Now we got a paracord whip here. It's easily concealable. It's light, takes minimal effort, but it requires skill to learn how to use it. You can easily hurt yourself with it, and it doesn't have much killing potential against zombies. People, you could definitely kill a person with one of these, but zombies, most likely not. Now, other than that, this I would not recommend. Ultimately, this one, it has it does come, have a few of the categories working, but the ones that don't work for it, you make it worthless. Now, okay, and I saw another person showed up to watch the video, and just as a reminder, the chat is open for asking any survival-based questions you have. Now, let's think about how we can do better than that last weapon. Now, so you see, the main problem with the last weapon is that it didn't have killing potential. So let's look at something with killing potential. What do we have here with killing potential? Okay, I see someone in the chat. Hi. We're reserving the chat for a for a Q&A. If you have any survival-based questions, you can feel free to ask them. That's what the purpose of this video really is. But we're trying to keep as little of the chat related to all that stuff. So just try to keep it based in survival questions. Now, let's look at another weapon. A hatchet. Relationships useful. In an apocalyptic scenario, being with people that you know and trust is actually actually this is part of a very long-going debate. Whether you should make it team up with strangers or friends and family. Ultimately, it's a 50-50 thing. Really, it doesn't matter. There are some advantages to one side. The other one has their own advantages. Each one has their downsides, but ultimately, in the end, it's a pretty 50-50 split. Ultimately, relationships in the apocalypse, they are... Yes, food is useful. Religion is not useful, and no, these questions are not useful, so I wouldn't say that you're being useful right now. I have answered all of your questions. Okay, so now let's look at another weapon. We got a hatchet. Now, the hatchet is very different from the last weapon. This one is smaller. A smaller weapon, so it does take minimal effort to use. However, it is different in every other sense. It has more weight to it. It's a multi-purpose thing because it can be used for various things other than killing. And one sec. Okay, I'll consider the survival base, but I'm not worried about the coronavirus. I really don't see it as that big of a threat. Now, other than that, the hatchet has a lot of killing potential and is multi-purposed, as it can be used for cutting wood, cutting heads, or if you use the back part of it, it can be used as a bludgeoning item or a hammer. Yes. Now, with that in mind, hatchet can be concealed. It actually fits most of the criteria for a good weapon. Of course, it does have two problems. One, it limits your reach, and it does require maintenance. Of course, its maintenance is mostly just sharpening. But other than that, please stop asking these questions. But ultimately, this is easily a great weapon. Ultimately, I would recommend not having this as your primary weapon, though. Oh, and as an added benefit, it can be thrown, making it a ranged weapon, too. Now, that's another thing to think about. When choosing a weapon, you gotta think. What do you do when things are near you, but are coming towards you, so you aren't able to hit them with your melee weapons? Well, think about the invention of the bow and arrow, where a guy thought, I really want to stab that guy, but he's so far away. Ranged weapons are a great thing to have. Of course, some are better than others. Now, with those ones, you gotta think. how much ammo are you going to stockpile on? What are you, what's what are the chances of you finding more ammo for it? Will it be heavy? You had to carry it around along with the ammo for it. Yeah. Now, ultimately, there's also and sound's a very big problem, but let's look at a weapon that might be able to work for this. Now, okay, a slingshot, wrist rocket specifically. This is a great example of a ranged weapon. Yeah, this can shoot accurately quite far away with a lot of power behind it. If you use steel pellets like I do, you can punch holes through up to in my experience in experience from people that I've been told about, you can shoot a hole through about a half-inch thick of sheet steel. Of course, I don't really believe that but don't really believe it that would be possible, but you can easily do some serious damage with these. And as an added benefit, you don't have to carry ammo with you, because you can just pick up rocks and use those. Now, I'm going to put another reminder in here. The chat is open to questions about survival. And as an example, don't ask any of the questions that have been asked so far. Now, this is also a silent weapon. However, there are a couple problems, such as you having to be strong enough to reliably pull this back and aim and shoot before within each kill. Rate of fire is pretty low, but I will say this is a good weapon. Are there better ranged weapons? Yeah, probably, but not a bad option. Now, let's think back to melee weapons. What about now? When you're running out, when you are fighting constantly, there is one thing that's going to be certain: your weapons are going to break, and when that happens, you need to be ready. Because you can't. You're gonna need a weapon. So maybe an improvised weapon. Here we have a wooden club. Now, interesting thing about this. Oh wait, 1 second. I actually forgot to mention something when talking about the slingshot, but it actually folds in on itself, so it can easily fit in your pocket. So that's an advantage there. I forgot to mention that. Now, this wooden club is made of ash wood, heat treated, duct tape handle, so it's slip resistant, and reinforced with nails. Now, this is actually a light club, so you can carry it around without much problem. It doesn't require that much skill to use, and you can pull off a kill with it. However, as it's a light club, it's not recommended for bashing in skulls repeatedly. That might break it. But I can say, I would not recommend having this as your main weapon, because this is more made for lighter, quick attacks than powerful, heavy attacks. Think about it like the difference between Shorin and Shori. So ultimately, this one, is it good? Well, it's not exactly concealable, but it's light. It's certainly able to be used, and it has killing potential, just not much of it. Ultimately, plenty better options, but if you have no other weapons, it's not a bad choice. Now, let's think a little more on this. What if you don't have that much physical strength to rely on in a fight? Oh, friendly reminder: the chat's open to ask any survival questions you have. as this is a survival Q&A. Okay, back to the weapons talk. What if you don't have that much physical strength? Now, you're not going to want to use a bludgeoning weapon in that case because you won't be able, because bludgeoning weapons take a lot of force to pull, to kill with, because you need to hit hard with them and use as force. So, yeah. Now, in the chat, I want to see if anyone can guess what this next weapon is. Oh, wait, real quick, we have a question from in the chat. What is your question? Okay, while he's typing out his question, the other two people watching this, how about you guess what the next weapon's going to be? 10 seconds to guess what it is. Yes, and because there is reason to believe it. Now, 10 seconds to guess what the next weapon is. Okay. Do we have any guesses on what the next weapon we're going to cover is going to be? No, the next weapon is not coronavirus. You know what? Out of sure, annoyance, I'm going to give one more chance to guess what it is. 10 seconds now. Okay, time's up. Does anyone have any guesses on what the next weapon is going to be before I pull it out? No, it's not a bowling ball. Sad that he's the only one guessing. Now, the next weapon, as I mentioned, if you don't have a lot of physical strength, you're not going to want to rely on bludgeoning weapons, if you're not strong enough to use them effectively. That will not only make it hard for you to kill with them, but it also use a lot more of your energy, which is why, for people with less strength, I would recommend using blades. Now, this is a machete. We have a viewer. Oh, yeah, we have a comment from a fellow YouTube channel, Memes to the Max. Oh, and for everyone watching, I recommend going to check out his channel as he is doing a reaction video to a few of my videos. Here soon. Now, does anyone else have any more survival questions? Oh wait, who am I kidding? Does anyone have any survival questions? I don't even think I've gotten any decent ones yet today. And there's only one person watching left. Now, for people without as much physical strength, I would recommend blades for the reason of they require less effort to use effectively. And they're much, and they require less effort to use. Now, it's easy to say, slash, stab. That's all there is to blades. But it's easy to miss when you're go for a slash and cutting yourself, especially when you're when you're in the heat of the moment, fighting. Now, unfortunately, you do need to think when you're using these. You need to know what you're doing. So skill is mandatory for using these. Of course, there is also... Oh. Right. Does anyone actually have any questions in the chat? No one? Okay, so Now, with that in mind, there is also the fact that the blades do require maintenance. In this one specifically, the main maintenance I've been doing on it is cleaning the blade, and sharpening it. But if you have a knife sharpener or a sharpening stone or even just good rocks, you can easily keep these things sharp. And the funny thing about machetes is they don't need to be as sharp as most blades because their weight actually will do most of the work for you when slashing because it's all focused on one point. So ultimately, this one, Walmart for $10. It was either 10 or 5. Either way, it's cheap. You can easily get it. And okay, we got a question in the chat. FBI is asking, is spying okay? Now, you see, in the apocalypse, spies. Actually, you know what? 1 second. The Art of War. I have mentioned this book multiple times. On my channel. Actually, only a couple times, really. But the Art of War includes an entire chapter talking about the importance of spies in a fight. Well, specifically in war. But spies are important for gathering information, for infiltration. Ultimately, spies are important. And in the apocalypse, it's not going to be that effective against zombies, but against other people, especially violent people. Very useful. So, actually, not a bad question, FBI. I am encouraging everyone else to ask questions too, as I'm trying to teach people these things and answer their questions. Now, as I mentioned, machete, affordable. Maintenance is minimal, but ultimately, can't really say that it's the best possible option. And as another benefit, the sheath has a belt loop, so it's actually very easy to keep this thing on you at all times. And it's multi-purpose, as the machete was originally a farming tool before thought of as a weapon. So ultimately, machete, very good option. Just be able to use it and be ready for maintenance. Next, let's look at something more interesting. So, we have a question right now. Yes, I would actually like to join that. But let's not talk about that during the live stream. I'm trying to save the chat for questions about survival. Now, when we're as I mentioned, there are several different criteria to be met to dictate a good I actually can't be messaged. So now, with that in mind, with all the criteria being met, why don't we think about this? What weapons are used by people who have to fight to survive? And no, I'm not just quoting the song, a song from the soundtrack of Bloodsport. Now, with that in mind, let's think about soldiers, specifically the U.S. Army, the greatest army in the world. Now, with that in mind, what kind of weapons do they carry with them? Well, let's think about this. Standard issue for the U.S. military is this. You might be asking, what is this exactly? An e-tool, or a collapsible shovel. This is easily one of my favorite weapons probably my favorite weapon in my collection. Now, it's a collapsible shovel made of steel, so can do some serious damage. Has a saw blade on here, and it's a shovel, so multi-purpose. You can do some serious damage with this thing. It's easy to fight with. It can be used for digging trenches or any kind of hole. And also, not only can you hit with the back, but my dad was in the army, and he's told me a lot of stories, and he even once told me that he saw a guy throw one of these in a fight. E-tools are easily one of the most dangerous weapons imaginable, and it's very practical too. And since it collapses, and is so light, it's actually very easy to keep around with you at all times. Only problem is, if you're holding it like this, your range is limited. If you're holding it like this, your accuracy is limited along with your power. So ultimately, it has its flaws, and there's the fact that as it's made of steel, it can rust. So maintenance is a must. Also, after you're done digging with it, you have to clean it. Otherwise, the dirt sticks to it and makes it hard to keep clean. Yeah. Ultimately, though, the only real problem other than that I can think of is the fact that I don't exactly know what kind of screws these are on it to so I can't exactly tighten the screws for maintenance. And this part right here does tend to get jammed, but just usually if you just wait a while and apply pressure every once in a while, it unjams itself. Now ultimately, this is a great weapon, and personally I would like to keep this in I try to keep this in all of my survival kits, because ultimately it's a practical thing to have and a great weapon. Unfortunately, I can't keep it in my minimal survival kit, which is the only one I can usually keep around with me, because the only backpack I have currently is my school backpack, and still in school. So with that in mind, its only real flaw is that it's kind of bulky even when collapsed, and that it does tend to get jammed. Maintenance is a little difficult, but this is easily a great weapon, and I would recommend it for most people. Of course, as I mentioned, physical strength is required, but it's less required for this than most blunt weapons. Now, for our final weapon, before I go into another topic, when talking about weapons, there's always one subject that comes up eventually. When talking about weapons, upgrades are something that's talked about quite often, especially when talking about popular weapons, such as the baseball bat. Now, this is already a great one. It's my Brooklyn Crusher by Cold Steel, and it's solid polypropylene, so you can't really upgrade that without with its physical striking, without actually making it worse. But I have upgraded it myself. I haven't made it to where it hits harder. I've just made it easier to use. I've duct taped the handle. Now you might say that's ridiculous, but it makes a non-slip easy grip that ultimately can only be topped by using Flex Seal. But unfortunately, Flex Seal is expensive. It's about $13 a can. So this is easily a powerful weapon on its own. But now it has a good grip on it. And it's still a Brooklyn Crusher. Of course, the grip's makes it pretty. I ran out of duct tape when making this, so grip's pretty limited on where you can grab it. But ultimately, I'd say it's great for use as a weapon. Ultimately, this is easily one of the weapons I would take with me in the zombie apocalypse in my collection. Personally, I would say I would take personally I would say I take most of them, given that a few of them are just tools that I would keep with me. But this is easily what I would choose as my primary. That and the machete, of course, and the E-tool. But this is a personal favorite. Now, other than this, upgrades, for weapons are always thought of. In fact, the YouTube channel ADHD's World has actually made an entire series where they make upgrades to baseball bats and compete against them called Battle. That's a battle with a space between the two T's. Now, with that in mind, there is plenty of possible upgrades, but you need to think, would this make it worse in any way? For instance, the nail bat is actually one of the most commonly thought of upgrades for a baseball bat, but it actually isn't good. Adds the risk of hurting yourself. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then there's the fact that you can't really carry it around that well. There's always the chance. Yeah, there's always the chance of getting yourself injured. Yeah, as I mentioned, you can't really put it in a sheath or something like that because, I mean, heck, even normal baseball bats get slings, and of course, when you hit with a nail bat, it causes damage to the inner structure of the bat, causing it to be much more likely to break with every swing. So ultimately, I wouldn't recommend things like a nail bat. You have to look at every possible outcome before considering these things. Just like choosing what kind of bat to get, wood, aluminum, or Brooklyn Crusher. Now I chose the Brooklyn Crusher because polypropylene doesn't break easily. I mean, this can support the weight of a truck. Now, ultimately, I will say one thing. Upgrades can be good. You just need to know what you're doing. So with that in mind, that is the end of our weapons section of the video. Now, I'm actually going to put on a brief intermission. While I take a break from this video. Do a couple things and decide what I'm going to do for the next part of the video. I figured that that there would be more questions to answer. So I wouldn't have to plan a second part of the video. So in the meantime, I will just leave you guys here. Feel free to put comments in the comment section. I'll answer them when I get back. And in the meantime, put in the comments section, the chat, any questions you want answered about survival, any requests for what the second half of this live stream can be about, and really just about anything that is related to the topic. Okay, I'm back. Well, dang it. It appears no one has actually typed any actual questions. So, with that in mind, again, please, in the chat, put any questions you have, survival related. So, with that in mind, I'm actually going to show you my updated survival kit. Well, my update of my minimal survival kit. Now, first thing you notice is the knife I have taped to the top. It's pretty obvious, but it's an easy way of adding a knife in without much space. Now, we also have a pair of gloves. Swiss Army knife. Now, in the Swiss Army knife, we have a knife, a bottle opener, a can opener, scissors, and a corkscrew. Easily some of the most useful tools you can have in survival. Okay, now I'm gonna have to end this here. Early. But until then, this is Random Man signing off, and I will continue this at another day.
All right.